Hello and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Jane's Fighters Anthology as we continue the Vladivostok campaign showcase missions. So today we're going to do the flip side of the FSX and show it for what it really should be. So let's see, where? Am I blind? Fighter Support X. There we go. I was gonna say, I literally just did this. Get my note sheet ready. Okay, so for this mission, we will be in the Vladivostok Peninsula. Chinese are enemy. We will be Japanese. Okay, so we'll just make this a full-on battle. We will do that. So 5-on-5, and then we'll have experience F. Do they not have the F1? Oh, they don't have the F1? No way. I thought they did. A1 Skyraider. Boop, 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 boop. CD F4, F5, F8, F14, 15, 16, 22. 104, 105, 111, 117, Hornet, Migs, Mirages, 5s, subs, they might not have it, just under Mitsubishi. There we go, Mitsubishi F-1. I was gonna say, I swear I did. If I didn't do an episode on the F1, I swear I at least experimented with it a while back. Okay. We have the F1. And let's round this out with the F-15J. The Vladivostok, 20,000 feet, clear skies, 20 miles. And our ground target today will be a command HQ. Let's make a command HQ. For our Chinese forces, let's have, obviously we're going to have some experienced J7 fish beds. And to round this out, yeah, we'll throw in Q5s. That'll kind of balance out the F1s. We'll make these guys A's just to give them a chance. Like, we'll make it lightly defended. Custom weapons load, and there we go. Okay, so this time, this does look good to me. I think we'll take the AIM-9X instead of the AIM-9M, because I believe we did start selling the AIM-9X to Japan. Actually, I think we started selling it to a lot of countries, so we'll do that. And that'll be for air to air. For air to surface, man HQ, I don't know if they're gonna. I don't think they're gonna use that super heavy bunker from a while back, but I want something that'll make a big boom. So, let's see. I think we should be able to use the JDAM at GBU-29P JDAM. I think we'll use that. So we can carry 2 of those. That'll be 4,000 pounds of explosives. And I'm I'm hoping the /P here means penetrating. I guess we'll see how it goes. Otherwise, we could only take one of those. One of those. Two of those. Yeah. So we'll go with the J-dams here. And can we fit a bigger fuel tank? No. Oh, fair enough. So in any case, let's start the mission. As always, air-to-air radar on. We'll clear them to engage hostile targets.
Contact, you're 12 o'clock, 17 miles.
Let's throw on our jammers and let's get this party started. What are these Q5s? Yeah. Okay, so the Mitsubishi F-2, also known in this game as the Fighter Support X. So, as I've already mentioned before, it is a Japanese derivative of the F-16.
Firing missile, Fox 1.
Am I even selecting?
Firing missile. Get your 12 o'clock.
Let's go. Alright.
Flash 1 bandit.
Working on our
Flash
secret
1,
file.
Phantom, deploy. Flash 1, Phantom. Get your 12 o'clock, turning left. Fox
So,
1. Fox 1.
it is a derivative of the Japanese, or of the American F-16, with a 60-40 split between American technology and Japanese technology. I believe it's 60% indigenous,
I'm taking a shot.
as we'll see in later on. There we go, he's down. Okay, for a second, that was so sudden, I thought we might have been shot down. There we go, we got the nice meatball on our wing there. Ah, come on. That's the problem with these larger dogfights, is get so chaotic. So these guys are over the searching, so I think the dogfight is over already. Very unfortunate. But that's how these things go, I guess. I probably could have done some better too, but in any case, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. So it's split, 60-40 split between Mitsubishi and Lockheed. That's what I was trying to say there. Oh my god, shut up. Production started in 1996 and entered service in 2000. More on that later. But another quick fact about it is it was the first fighter aircraft in the world to feature an active electronically scanned radar. Which is very important. The second would actually prove to be the F-22. More on that later. But yeah, it when in 1995, you know, when they were doing tests and stuff, they had the J/APG-1 radar, which was the first piece of radar for a fighter aircraft, and now they're getting pretty ubiquitous. Why do we have a 0%?
I'm taking a shot. I'm taking a shot. I'm taking a shot.
Now, J-dams are supposed to be GPS, so it should just, yeah, lock on here. Another one. Look at how fat that bomb is. Oh, we have minimal damage.
Structure, you're 11 o'clock close. Engaging.
Oh, wow, he's firing all three at him. Okay, so they do work, it just seems they're a little picky about what they hit, which is weird.
I'm taking a shot.
Oh, wow, that didn't explode, but I think that would have taken off our, I think that would have taken off our wing. Yeah, we have an 80% hit this time. So let's see if that gives us any different results here with this big old fat boy. Yeah, there we go. So that could very well be indicative that it's a penetrating munition, since it would be exploding underground.
Attack structure, your 5 o'clock flow. Engaging.
Well, we should only have 2 bunkers left. So, continuing on, the F-2 is nicknamed the Viper Zero. This is in reference to the fact that, well, obviously the F-16 is often referred to by its pilots as the Viper, which in and of itself, as I've previously mentioned in the F-16 video, is a reference to the famous Viper from Battlestar Galactica, because they perceive the resemblance between the Viper on Battlestar Galactica and the F-16. And the Zero part of it comes from the Mitsubishi A6M0 from World War II. Alright, so now the FSX has its origins in a 1985 design study to replace the F1. It was originally intended as a purely domestic project, as I believe the, if memory serves, we're just going to refill our ammo, since it seems like our wingmen are not doing very well with using these bombs, but it was originally intended to be a completely domestic project, kind of a follow-up to the F-1 to help Japan rebuild their domestic military industry after World War II. However, they ended up running into a big problem, and that is, and I'll look back. All right, missile away, bomb away, and that is the Toshiba Kongsberg scandal. Now, this was a scandal where, alright, we have good hits, and our wingman has another one. So I think we're going to disengage and head east. Yeah, we're going to shut that off because it's annoying. But yeah, the Toshiba Kongsberg scandal is where the Japanese company sold a milling machine, a multi-axis milling machine that was capable of making very precise parts. Now, milling machines, or any sort of manufacturing equipment that has a certain amount of precision, is regulated by ITAR, I believe, International Trafficking in Arms Regulation, or something like that. Basically, ITAR is a U.S. security law or directive that states what technology can be exported. You typically need, whenever you're exporting technology, you got to get a license for it. It needs to be reviewed for security concerns and stuff. It's basically what the United States uses to keep military technology out of hands it would rather not see them in. And this company, they ended up selling, I don't know if it was intentional, I'd have to read more into the scandal, but I do know they ended up selling, directly or indirectly, a milling machine to a Russian firm, which was then used to build new propeller fins for Soviet submarines, which of course made them quieter and harder to track. So that was kind of a sticking point in U.S.-Japanese relations for a while, and of course this was happening during the late 80s, early 90s, when you had that whole Japan bashing thing, which I guess I didn't understand or even know of it as a kid, because I thought Japan was cool. I liked Pokemon in the first grade, and pretty much maybe up through the third grade, I think. And even today I love a lot of Japanese media. But apparently people were really afraid of Japan. Should have been afraid of China, but I don't know why they didn't get more of a bad rap. But in any case, that was a sticking point. So in order to kind of save face and maintain relations with the U.S., they decided to make the FSX a joint project between the United States and Japan. That way, the U.S. gets basically a ton of money and a bit of say in the Japanese defense industry. The project was formally announced in 1987 with a Memorandum of Understanding signed in 1988. However, when George Herbert Walker Bush I took office in 1989, the program was reviewed for security concerns, again because of the Toshiba Kongsberg scandal, as well as that culture of Japan bashing I mentioned. And this resulted in an amended Memorandum of Understanding in April 1989, which, to be honest, we really took advantage of Japan. This was a terrible deal for them. And I don't know how we managed to get them to agree to it, but so basically Japan had limited access to US technology, whereas Japan would transfer any technology developed for or used in this project to United States, to like Lockheed Martin and such. Also, the United States was guaranteed a minimum of 40% of the production contract for these fighters. So we really took advantage of them here. Mitsubishi initially gave their project a designation of SX3. Eventually, it renamed it to the Fighter Support X, or FSX, which is the designation that this game uses. Most of the world now just recognizes it as the F-2. The base of this project was the General Dynamics F-16 Agile Eagle concept, the Agile Falcon concept. And the initial order was for 141 units. However, as often goes, low production run resulted in really high costs, which then further resulted in reduced production, which resulted in even more higher costs. So by the end of this all, they ended up ordering only 98 by 2004, and they cost about 4 times as much as a production F-16 CD Block 5052 fighter.
We're almost home.
Which is just ridiculous. As granted, it had improved capabilities over the existing F-16s at the time, but not enough to justify that cost. Now, ILC was initially planned for 1999, but that was delayed to 2000, as I mentioned earlier, because they ran into some design and development problems, structural problems with the aircraft that they had to work out. The last unit was delivered in 2011, or in September of 2011. And total deliveries were 61 single-seat and 21 two-seat trainers. Or rather, that's not total deliveries. As of 2014, there were 61 single seats and 21 dual seats flying. Now, there are a lot of subcontractors involved in this project, and these include General Electric, Kawasaki, Honeywell, Raytheon, NEC, Azathene, Takuski Electric, and Yokogawa. Okay, now we're setting down. Perfect. The differences from the F-16 to the F-2 include a 25% larger wing area, and this resulted in increased weight originally, and they didn't want increased weight, obviously. So they ended up coming up with a new technique for manufacturing wings. They used a graphite epoxy composite, which was cured in an autoclave, and by using this technique and incorporating composites into the design, they were able to significantly reduce the weight while maintaining the structural integrity. And in addition, it also helped reduce the radar profile of the aircraft because it didn't reflect radar waves as much. They tended to be absorbed more. So this technology, of course, was transferred to the US because of the ridiculous one-sided tech sharing agreement that was in place. And then, of course, the J/APG-1 and J/APG-2 ASA radars were developed for this. And the F-22 was the second fighter with ASA radar because of this, with its, I think, APG-81, if I remember correctly. Have to look into that. I didn't mark that down because we're not doing an episode on the F-22, but not yet, at least. I think I will in this series, though, just to get it out of the way, since I've been kind of neglectful of doing it during the campaign. Just because I've had so little time with work that I didn't have time to write a lot of these notes. In addition, the other design features that are different include a larger tailplane and air intake, as well as a 3-piece cockpit canopy, and then, of course, everything is designed to work with Japanese munitions, namely their AM-3 through AM-5 series weapons, as well as their ASM series missiles. And the last change is it incorporated a drogue chute, which is actually pretty popular among export customers for the F-16. Specifically, a lot of the Scandinavian countries, northern countries, use it because of they have high risk of icy runways, being, you know, a nice icy snowy country and all that. But I think even South Korea has it. Although in that case, I think it's more motivated by the fact that in a war with, say, North Korea, there's a good chance that there'll be holes in the runway, so you want to stop as short as possible and reduce the length of runway you need to keep intact to maintain operational capability. And that's the big differences. There's obviously numerous smaller differences, but we won't go into those. Now, currently, the only operational history of the F-2 has been in intercepting Russian and Chinese and South Korean aircraft over various disputed areas. Obviously, there's I think it's the Senkaku Islands that are disputed with China. There's, I forget the name, but I do know there's some islands disputed between South Korea and Japan. Despite being very close U.S. allies, Japan and South Korea have pretty shit relations, most of which I think stems over World War II, which is a bit of a shame. I mean, the war was, let's see, it's 2019, so about 2060. The war was about 80 years ago, give or take. You know, anyone involved is like probably near or over 100 at this point and living on Social Security. No one is in charge or has any say in government that was alive in World War II, so I think it's kind of ridiculous that they're still feuding over it. The big point of contention being, I guess Japan's official position is that they don't acknowledge a lot of the atrocities they committed, like, for example, the massacre at Nanjing in China, in which they used chemical weapons against the civilian population. And then I know in many occupied countries, Japan recruited, or not recruited, but rather forced many women into servitude as comfort women or sex slaves, basically. And that's another huge point of contention, which they kind of made a breakthrough in that, and I think they kind of officially apologized. Or not apologized, they may have admitted that it happened, But I don't know. Japan's got a weird thing where, for a reason, they just can't admit what they did in World War II and move on. They're almost like the other extreme of Germany, whereas Germany is constantly apologizing and paying reparations and promising to learn from what they did in World War II, whereas Japan is just like, it happened, we did things, let's not talk about it anymore. Which, keeps them from moving on, really. Which I really think they should just, get it over with, say sorry, pay the reparations, move on. But in any case, we aren't here to talk politics. It's basically only had service in intercepting Russian fighters over the Kuril Islands. Basically, they're just intercepting aircraft from neighboring nations over disputed areas. They haven't had any combat experience yet, and hopefully not for a long time, because if Japan starts getting involved in an air war, then shit's really going down, considering how restricted they are in terms of what they can do. So if Japan's able to start opening fire, then you've got pretty much a full-blown war going on by that point. The F-2 has also taken some hits. Two F-2s have crashed in various incidents. I believe both were training flights. And then there were 5 destroyed and another 13 severely damaged in the 2011 Tohoku earthquake / tsunami. Which, that's a big loss to the fleet there, because again, they made less than 100, and now you've wiped out, 5% of your aircraft permanently, and another 15%, give or take, is going to be out of service for months or years while they get repaired. So, the attrition has not been kind to the F-2s. Personally, I think they should have probably bought closer to the 200, because hell, we made more Raptors than they made F-2s, and the Raptor is a significantly more advanced fighter, and a more costly fighter too at that. At least if you remove all the R&D costs and just, the actual production costs, because obviously that gets super inflated, but... And the F-2 does have a max weapons load of 8,065 kilogram, which includes support for the AM-3, which is their Sidewinder equivalent, the AM-4, which is their AMRAAM equivalent, the AM-5, which is their AIM-9X Sidewinder equivalent, the ASM-1, and the ASM-2 anti-ship missiles. And actually, part of the reason this was designed, in addition to supplement and eventually replace the F-1, was this was... one, just to be a multi-role strike fighter for Japan, but it was also made for anti-shipping specifically, since Japan is, after all, an island nation, and so they need something that can go out and take ships and keep them from approaching their islands. So that was one of the big motivations behind the development of the F-2, was to be able to carry anti-ship missiles out to a range and to take out enemy ships before they can approach the home islands. So it looks like our boys are settling in. And I believe, I'd have to go and look back at pictures, but I believe a lot of those control surfaces are on there. Okay, and, or not control surfaces, but like those spikes. It looks like everyone's taking off now because they're stupid, so we will just end the mission here. So we successfully completed the mission. We took damage because that missile just ripped right through us. Destroyed 21 targets. Oh, that's why it was so high on the last one. Because I forgot, it includes the aircraft and the ground targets. So we destroyed 1 fighter. We took out SAM, some AAA, and a pair. The command HQ and a bunker. 1 hit, 1 failed, 1 spoofed for our missiles. All of the ground weapons technically hit, but obviously we had the 1 dud from our first JDAM. And then we had a pretty good gun hit percentage. As far as air-to-air missiles on us, we spoofed 1, the other just failed. And then for SAM launches, 1 hit, and the rest were spoofed. But yeah, those were ridiculous. They were just pew, 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 pew. Which I don't even recall seeing that in the campaign, so that's why I was kind of surprised to see that kind of firepower here. But in any case, that concludes the showcase for the Mitsubishi F-2. So with that, thank you all for watching, and stay tuned for next time, and we'll see you then.